Bored of inadequate film podcasts?
Frustrated by amateurish, immature content creators masquerading as film critics?
Then we have just the film podcast for you.
It's called Kermode and Mayo's Take.
And you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Roll the tape.
Base to all drivers, this is an update on that evac notice. We have a situation at Ponderosa Elementary. I repeat, there's a situation developing at Ponderosa Elementary. There are 23 kids who are stranded in the evacuation zone. Their parents cannot make it in to pick them up. They need to be picked up and taken to the alternative collection point at Paradise Elementary. Is there anybody empty and in the area of East Paradise?
987 to base. Sorry, all full. Not reached my school yet. 910 to base. Full here too, Ruby. 10 minutes from dropping off.
Come on. That's a clip from The Lost Bus. I'm delighted to say that its director, Paul Greengrass, is back on the show. Hello, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, Simon. How are you?
Yeah, it's one of the delights of doing this show in its various incarnations that every so often there's a Paul Greengrass film and we get to talk to you about it. Because when your name is attached to a project, I think people go, I'm in. I'm hooked up. This is going to be a compelling couple of hours of movie magic.
Well, I mean, that's very kind. That's what I go for. That's what I try for.
So introduce us to The Lost Bus. Take us to California and how you got to tell this story.
Well, it's the story of the fire that ripped through the small community of Paradise in Northern California 5 or 6 years ago. And it was the deadliest wildfire in Californian history, I think in American history. And it's a sort of story of our times, really. You know, I mean, wherever you look, it feels like the world's burning, doesn't it? All across Europe, South America, North America, the Far East have had bad fires. Yeah, it's part of the world we're living in. Jason Blum and Jamie Lee Curtis asked me if I was interested. To be honest, when you look back, it's amazing how much time you waste considering films that you end up not making. They're always the ones that you agonize. Oh, shall I? Or maybe. And then perhaps I could do it this way. And maybe, and then you waste. And then in the end you go, no, how do I do it? Not always, but pretty much the ones that you actually end up making are the ones you go, oh, yeah, definitely. I know what to do with that. And it was a bit like that with this. I mean, as soon as they said, okay, it's Paradise, it's the wildfire, which I remembered, and it's the story of the school bus and the school bus driver and the teacher. It's a little bit like Captain Phillips. It's a story in the real world, obviously, and I've done a few of those, but there's something about the shape of the story and the compression of the story where there's something of a movie in its structure, if I can put it that way. And so, it made me think immediately of Stagecoach and the great John Ford movie and, the characters in a compressed space, a little bit like in 1993 and Captain Phillips. So I sort of thought, let's do it. I was in immediately.
Ron Howard came on the show and talked about his documentary called Rebuilding Paradise, about the fires there and what happened in the community. And I think it's still on National Geographic, actually.
Really, really wonderful documentary.
It is. And as I remember, I haven't gone back and watched it, but his documentary kind of finishes where yours starts with the dilapidated state of the electrical system. It's all sorted and Pacific Gas and Electric Company admitted liability, as your film shows at the end. But your film starts with the pylons and the cables snapping and starting the fire. And I thought that was very interesting because there's no doubt where the blame is for this story.
I would say two things. I would say it's two things, not one. It's the interaction of dilapidated infrastructure and climate. Where do I start the movie? A big, big sun, a parched earth, no rain for whatever it was, the longest time that summer. And then that night, those unbelievable winds. So it's the two things together that create the conditions for what happened.
Yeah. So the book, the starting point, as I understand, it's called Paradise, One Town Struggle to Survive an American Wildfire by Lizzie Johnson, which Jamie Lee Curtis had read a clip from and then heard an interview with Lizzie Johnson, which is the mechanics. But I would imagine, and certainly anyone who saw that Ron Howard documentary will know, there are a bunch of stories that came out of this fire.
Correct.
Was this clearly the one that you wanted to tell?
It was, yeah. I read Lizzie's book after I'd said, yes, actually. I mean, I said yes, literally in the first conversation because I thought it was such a great idea and I kind of could see it in my mind straight away or, what it could be. And Brad and I did the screenplay. He'd actually done the first draft, and he had taken the book and decided that that was the story to tell. And he was quite right about that.
This is Brad Inglesby.
Yeah. And that was absolutely the right decision to make it about the bus and the teacher and the bus driver. And we started with that and then worked to what it became. Then it became, I wanted to incorporate it to be about the firefighting side of it, because I think that makes it very contemporary and also gave it drive. And, it has that kind of, as I say, classical structure, really.
Yes.
The challenge was how to make it. That was really the big challenge. How do you make a film where you've got 22, 23 small children? You've got a bus, you've got fire, you're trying to create fire in an environment. And we didn't actually shoot it in California. We decided not to. So we shot it in Santa Fe, which is almost identical countryside. A small town called Ruidoso, which is in upstate New Mexico, which is uncannily the same as Paradise. First of all, you had that challenge to solve. Paradise is a particular place. It's not wealthy Southern California. We're talking about rural Northern California. It's decidedly blue collar. It's a slice of America. It's a community like Ohio or Pennsylvania that feels left behind by wealthy, affluent Southern California. And that was part of the bitterness, of course, after these events.
So our bus driver, Kevin McKay, is played by Matthew McConaughey. The teacher is America Ferrera. Both fantastic performances, as we would expect. Matthew McConaughey is such an extraordinary actor. But can you tell us what you asked them to do and how you got them to act the way you did? What is it that is actually burning? And when they're driving through it, what have you asked them to do?
I actually went one way of making this film and then did a complete reverse and went in a completely different direction. My initial feeling was to do it entirely virtually. I went to the Sphere, in Las Vegas, saw the U2 show, which is a quite extraordinary show. I don't know if you've been in the Sphere. But
I have not, but I know a lot of people who have. Yeah.
When you got that wraparound screen and suddenly you're transported into the desert of Las Vegas, you believe you're there. I mean, you think you're standing in the desert. It's quite uncanny. And I was very struck by that. And I thought, well, okay, that's the way to make it. And we actually did quite a lot of feasibility studies. Could we create a screen around the bus that could travel so we had the same thing and everybody would be interactive and all the rest of it? And then after a little while, I thought, first of all, I don't think we're ever in a film world cinematically going to believe it. It's going to feel somewhere not real. And secondly, I didn't feel it was giving the actors, including the children, who were also acting brilliantly, I think, a real environment. So then we went in a totally different way, which is have a real bus. And basically it was an abandoned arts college near Santa Fe, which is a huge lot. I mean, like 3 or 4 times the size of Pinewood. And it had roads and everything. And basically it was just one big, huge playground.